Bringing you the best music from home studios across the world. This is TAETRO Radio.
What's going on, everybody? This is TAETRO coming to you live from sunny Daytona, Florida. I didn't think I would get an episode up this week because I'm on vacation. And if you haven't yet, go check out the vacation vlogs because I've been doing a lot of making music videos with mobile gear, sampling in nature, that sort of thing. And I really didn't want to miss this week because we have 4 great entries. So we're going to kick things off right away with Sign C. This track is called Blackhole. Let's check it out. Alright, that was Blackhole by Sign C. Sign C is a 14-year-old producer from Texas. If you can believe that, 14 years old and making beats like this. Like, that's totally crazy. Props to you, man. This was a really great tune. One thing I really liked right off the bat is you got your side chaining on lock, and then this is genre of beats that you're going for. That is totally necessary, so good job for recognizing that. I also really liked the set of sounds. It was a really good sound palette, and it seemed really simple. That lead bass type sound really is great for this track, and I love the way you use it because you use it in a couple different registers. And I don't know if it's because I'm at the beach right now, but I got real strong beach sunny vibes from this tune. Double check at 43 seconds because there does seem to be a little bit of a glitch that seems like it could have happened on export, so just double check that. So I really dig all the sounds until that first lead comes in. And I'm not sure if I just don't like the sound, because I like what it does melodically. I think it maybe just might be a bit too loud in the mix. I also like that it's got a slow attack, which makes it different from all the other stuff that's going on, like that bass lead sound that we talked about. And it does create sort of a drifting, flowing atmosphere. So what I'm wondering is if maybe we bring it down in the mix a little bit, but also maybe add some reverb to it, that might make it gel in the mix a little bit more. Because I think what's standing out to me about it is the fact that it is standing out so much on top. One other thing you could try is to sidechain that as well to the kick, because it is long and flowing, and adding that pulse to it might help it sit in the mix a little bit better. At about 1 minute 10 seconds, that thick bass synth lead goes up in register, but the flowing slow attack synth is still happening, and I think they kind of get in the way of each other because my ear is immediately drawn to that jumping up in register, so I want to listen to that, but that other synth is sort of in the way, I guess. So if that isn't what you want your listeners to listen to at that moment, you can bring it down. And we don't always have to, in electronic music, we get caught up into introducing new things and layering them on top of each other. But sometimes it's okay to drop things out after a little while and let something else shine. We don't have to constantly be building, because then by the end of the track, you'll have, 7, 8 things stacked up on top of each other, and none of them really got a chance to shine. So I would experiment more with dropping things out as you introduce something new in. And even if you don't drop them out totally, you could at least bring the volume down in the mix. There's a great subtle change at 2 minutes 15 seconds where another pad layer is added, or the pads start playing more, and I really love what it does to the vibe of the track, because nothing changes drastically, but it still feels like progression. Thanks so much to Sign C for submitting this track. It really was so dope and had great vibes. You're only 14. I can't wait to see what you're doing in 1, 2, maybe 5 years. And this should really serve as inspiration for all of us, like the older crew in the group. I'm 24, so that's a whole 10 years older than you. And I think this track is dope, and I wish that I was making music like this when I was 14. So great submission. Thanks so much, Sign C. This next submission is super exciting because it's the first submission to feature vocals. So this is Drive 45 with Control Room B.
You're listening to TAETRO Radio.
that was Control Room B by Drive 45. Really great submission, and I was really happy to have a track with lyrics submitted, so props to you for that. First thing, in the first probably 5 seconds of the track, the thing happened that I like the most, and it is that you used silence and space to draw the listener in. Because that first figure plays, and then boom, there's silence. Then the next figure plays, and you insert a little synth in there. And I think that's a great way to draw listeners in, and it's really easy in electronic music, like we talked about before, layering, and also having sound just consistently through a track. And it's so okay to use space, and I think you did it right at the beginning in a perfect way. I love the way you're definitely influenced by video game music, and the use of the 8-bit style sounds is really great, and I especially loved the riser, that noise that is totally like bit crushed. That was a great way to use that noise. Also loved the style of vocals. It really reminded me of some early Death Cab, and using the high octave and the low octave together was a great way to create a nice wide sound. After the first section with vocals and then the lead comes in, it's sort of like a Super Mario, like underwater style lead. It's really great. It sits a little high up in the mix for me, so I would bring it down just a little. The thing about leads is they stick out on their own, so we don't necessarily have to compensate by bringing up the volume. Also, with the vocals happening there at the same time, my ear gets confused about what I'm supposed to be listening to. Obviously, I'm supposed to listen to that lead, but I'm still straining to hear the vocals because they're happening in the background. And you definitely did something with the reverb, which was cool. I would maybe spread them out with the panning a little bit more. One to the left, one to the right, so they're less dead center. So the only thing dead center is that cool Mario underwater lead. The thing that people who write lyrically understand a lot better than like instrumental writers is structure, because you're always thinking that verse, chorus, bridge structure, and it really helps the track pacing, and you really nailed that here. Everything from things dropping out to sections changing, I can see clear sections, especially when the harmony changes and you throw that D major chord in there. That's a great way to use a lot of the same material, but you've changed the harmony so it feels totally different by the end. The drum shuffles a little bit more and it feels totally different, even though it's not that different. One critique I have towards the end is when those crashes come in, and there's crashes on every beat. And I know exactly what vibe you're going for because I can hear it in my head in other tunes, and I know what you want there. But I want you to first ask yourself, does that need to be there? And if the answer is yes, then everything else needs to amp up all at the same time, because what I'm picturing here is a full band playing this tune. You got 3-4 keyboard players, you've got a bassist, you've got a drummer, and you've got the vocalist. And now picture the drummer going nuts, Travis Barker nuts on those crash cymbals at the end, but everybody else is just still chill and just kind of hanging out, bopping around. It really doesn't fit and it doesn't make sense. So if you're going to keep that crash at the end, which I think it really amps up the ending, so I think you should, everything else has got to amp up too. So if that means adjusting velocities on some of those synthesizers, or if that means adding another vocal layer where you're singing the higher octave, but it's more of a loud, proud, shouty vocal, I think something needs to happen there where all the other instruments need to be part of the same band and jamming out at the same energy level. Overall, this was a great tune. Thank you so much for the submission. That was Drive 45 with Control Room B. Our next tune is called Edition of the Hidden by Mmbrr. right, that was Edition of the Hidden by Mmbrr, and I just really love the juxtaposition of this industrial, dark, hypnotic tune against the tune we heard last by Drive 45, that Super Mario-y underwater world, happy-go-lucky fun tune. And that's one thing I really like about doing this podcast and being a part of this TAETRO community, is that there's so many different people creating electronic music and all kind of using the same means in our own ways and making totally different music. So that's a really beautiful thing about this community. Really love your use of samples. It seems like you're using a lot of sampled sounds. One time when I was in college, I did a piece where I sampled all sounds from the garage. So tools, concrete, metal, and this is really what that reminds me of. So if you want to let us know in the comments below some of your sample sources, I would love to hear it. I also love the real industrial style samples up against the traditional like drum kit with a tambourine too. So I talk about this all the time. It's that juxtaposition of the organic and the electronic that really makes electronic music work. It really is truly hypnotic, and I love that about this piece, especially with you have a lot of percussive sounds, but then you have that sample that almost sounds like, I'm not sure, like soft trumpets flowing in the background. So there's no real melody, there's not necessarily some harmony, but it's happening, you know, it's all happening and flowing, and it's a cyclical feeling. One thing that I will point out is that the clap is just too loud. I mean, that clap's gonna sit on top anyway because it sticks out from everything else, and it sits way too far up in my ears. So make sure when you listen to your track, you listen to it on a couple different headphones, couple different speaker systems, not just the home studio setup, because I know when I listen to things in my home studio on the KRK Rocket 5s, I don't hear everything I need to hear, so I take it in the car, which doesn't have the best stereo, but I still want to hear what it sounds like. Or I listen to it with Apple earbuds, which again, not the best, but that's what people are going to be listening to it on, so I want to make sure it sounds good on that. I'm not going to sacrifice certain things to make it sound good on that, but I want to make sure nothing stands out, like those claps. They're real loud. But this is a really awesome hypnotic tune, and a lot of times I suggest people, you know, take a melodic solo over this or something like that. But I think the lack of melody and harmony is what makes it truly trance-like. It's almost listening to those binaural beats and going to sleep, and it's supposed to put you in that lucid dream state. That's what this reminds me of. Towards the end, if you do want to help the listener stay interested, I would add a layer of improvisation, not with melody and not with an instrument, but with effects. So maybe add some beat repeats, either just on the drums, or you could even add an effects layer on the master channel, sweeping EQs, sweeping filters, things like that. That could be the one last layer of improv that would keep the listener interested all the way to the end. A lot of people are going to listen to this to the end anyway because it's so hypnotic and they're going to get lost in it. But for those listeners that are looking for rapid change, a layer like that can really help keep them engaged. Overall, I'm really in love with the dark industrial vibe of this track, and if you could please let us know your sample sources in the comments below, or at least some of them, I'd love to hear it because you've really got some great sounds here. Thank you so much for this submission. That was Mmbrr with Edition of the Hidden. All right, for our final submission, this is going to be Dario Kink with a track called Limus.
This is TAETRO Radio.
Nemesis Beatz. Nemesis Beatz. Nemesis Beatz. Nemesis Beatz.
All right, that was Limus by Dario Kink. If I had to give this a genre, I would call it spooky trap. And it was really cool. I really love this track. I'm going to share with you guys a little mistake that I just made. So in Ableton Live, I record the podcast, and when I drop files in, it warps them to the tempo automatically, as some of you may know. This track, it's reading at about 164 BPM. Live's default tempo is 120. So initially I was listening to the track at 120 beats per minute, and it was really slow and glitchy, and it didn't sound wrong. It actually sounded really cool. And Dario, if you get a chance, I would challenge you, just listen to this track at a slower tempo, because it really like dragged things out and made it glitchy in a way that really fit the genre I think that you're going for. That said, I listened to it again at the proper tempo and it still sounds great. I think the rate of change at the beginning is great. You introduce things in a perfect way. It keeps me wanting to know what's going to come next. And I love that swift change where we go down to a lower key section and the plucky lead is introduced. At first, I didn't think the plucky lead fit the vibe of the track, but then as we went forward, I really felt like it fit. I really love how the kick drum knocks too. Like, that's a really great kick sample. And just like in the previous track that we listened to, if you want to let us know some of your sample sources in the comment below, that would be really helpful for the community. But yeah, hopefully you're teaming up with some rappers or like a team of rappers, because I know a lot of people that would be really down to spit some bars over this track. It's also a great way to earn some income with your tracks. The main riff is really cool. I would have loved to see you maybe add in some ping pong delay or something like that. So instead of just being straight dot, 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 we get some syncopated rhythms around that. That would be a really cool way to spice things up. One thing I would also really like to see that I think would fit this genre really well is that main riff, but played on an instrument made up of some vocal samples. And if you throw some reverb on there, I think it'll really take this track to the next level, because I think that's a really big trend in trap music right now, is using vocal one-shot samples. I was going to suggest, hey, add a lead or something or a melody for the listener to listen to, but I think the real mission here is, find some rappers, find some people to put vocals over this, because I think it's a great tune, and I think a lot of rappers are really going to want to spit over this. Thank you so much for the submission, Dario. This was a great spooky trap track. And thank you all so much for listening today. I didn't think I was going to get the show up being on vacation, but I did. So thank you all for listening. Make sure to show some love to these electronic music producers in the comments below. I've also listed all their pages in the description, so be sure to give them love over on their respective pages. If you want to get in on the TAETRO Radio podcast, you need to be a part of the TAETRO community, which is a closed group on Facebook, and anybody can join. You just need to message me over at facebook.com/TAETRO Music and say, hey, I want to be part of the TAETRO community. From then on, I'll send you an invite. You'll get approved, of course, and then we just ask that you introduce yourself. The TAETRO community is filled with home studio producers. We all help each other out. We ask for advice. And it's a really great way to get to know people that are also into electronic music and working out of a home studio. So if you are interested in joining that group, shoot me that message and I'll be sure to approve you. If you enjoyed this week's podcast, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to go check episodes 1 through 3 out. And if you haven't yet, check out my vacation vlogs over on youtube.com/TAETRO. Our voice of God on this podcast is Jerry from the community. Shout to Sign C, Drive 45, Mmbrr, and Dario for submitting tracks this week. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.
Homegrown music from the TAETRO community exclusively on TAETRO Radio.